and welcome to the Dublin Arsenal preview show. I'm your host, Jonathan Giles, and the show tonight joined by show regulars Eamonn Donnelly and David Sims to chat in depth about our upcoming Premier League fixture this Sunday against an in-form Crystal Palace side at the Emirates Stadium. Arsenal versus Crystal Palace will be live on Sky Sports Premier League this Sunday, October 26th, kick-off 2 p.m. Check out all the pre and post-match atmosphere in the River Bar, home of the Dublin Arsenal Supporters Club. So sit back and enjoy the show. As I said in my intro, it's great to have my fellow regulars on the show. First of all, Eamon, who are you, Donnelly?
Evening, Jonathan. Evening, David. I've a friend from North Korea, and I asked him how he was. He said, "Well, he can't complain."
Oh, God.
Another classic.
No, if that doesn't start your show off in a high, I don't know what does. Eamon on fire already. That Birra Peretti, I think he's drinking, is doing him the world of good.
I'm on the San Miguel. It's Saturday. Yeah,
He's
yeah,
changed sides.
yeah.
Going on Mediterranean, and I'm also joined by David Sims, better known as Scoreguy on X. How are you, pal?
Yeah, I'm very, very well. Enjoying the Saturday night, enjoying the relaxation. Good stuff.
I can't wait for tomorrow. Another cracker and at 2 p.m. at the Emirates. Of course, as I said, against Crystal Palace, Oliver Glasner's side. It's a match where Eberechi Eze will face his former side since his £60 million move from Chandler's Park in the summer transfer window. Also, former gunner Eddie Nketiah also faces his former side, Arsenal. Eddie scored in the Carabao Cup quarter-final in Palace's 3-2 defeat last season. A player that we'll all be fond of from both sides, Ian Wright, a goal scoring legend for both clubs. He played for 221 times for the Gunners, scoring 128 goals. And for Palace, 225 appearances, scoring 90 goals. Briefly, Eamon, Ian Wright, what a player he was. Your thoughts on the great man?
He was a great character and a great striker.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Ian Wright coming to the Arsenal kind of disrupted that team in a tactical sense, in that we became very narrow because you had to play over the top to him all the time. And I think Alan Smith suffered as a result to try and gel. But I think what I was really pleased about for Wright, because he was a great character and he dug us out of so many holes, right? But
Yeah.
what I was really pleased with him was the way he he got the reward winning the Premier League in '98.
Yeah, I was just going to
Before
say
he left
that.
the club, and he like people forget he was an integral part of the first 6 months of that season.
Yeah, he was.
And then he got injured, and he didn't get back in time for the end of the season, and young Anelka then stepped in, and what a player he was. But I know, Riley's brilliant, and do you know what? You just got to love him. He's just Arsenal, and I often turn on the Rocky and Righty documentary
Yeah,
and look at it, and do you know what? It
Yeah.
brings a lump to my throat all the
yeah,
time.
it's a real tear-jerker.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
very moving. Now, I have to say, I did shed a tear now, and it's very seldom that I do that, except when I'm watching the Arsenal and have pissed. But yeah, that documentary, it was a tear-jerker. Like to lose such a good friend, not only a teammate, but a good friend in Rocky, and to achieve the dream for the two of them to play for Arsenal. It's a story, Eamon. It's fairy tale stuff, isn't it?
Well, I'll tell you what I like most, right, is in the film '89,
Yeah,
which is another one that I
that's a
regularly
oh, that's
watch.
a
Like they actually, Righty wasn't on the team in '89. He was at Palace at that time,
yeah.
but they got him as part of the group to represent Rocky, and I thought that was just a touch of class. Yeah,
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you can
yeah.
see in the Gunners pub. I think we've done is the interview was done him with himself, wasn't it? The Gunners pub. You can recognise some of the background in it. And you could see how emotional he got. Talking
There's a,
about
there's a picture of David on the wall in the background,
To
signed by himself.
be honest, I'm nearly sure if you look closely in the left hand corner, there's a picture of him and
With my new bionic
Perry
arm. Yeah,
Groves-esque when he
yeah.
was in back in the day. I'll stick up that picture, Eamon sent me. You'd swear it was Perry Groves in his heyday. Tough as nails. It was Eamon Hatcher Donnelly, they called.
Yeah.
Uh, David, to yourself on Ian Wright, as Eamon says,
I
really,
mean,
really nice guy, wasn't he? He's a fan's friend, really, wasn't he? A real Arsenal fan. But what did you make of him as a player for the Arsenal?
I think Wrighty's legacy is obviously very much wrapped up with the older style of Arsenal and Highbury, and a lot of younger kids, younger listeners, maybe listening to this, won't really, they'll know him more from Match of the Day and as being a pundit
Yeah,
and whatever. But he was an amazing, prolific goal scorer. What a poacher! I mean, something very, very different to Arsenal. Something we haven't really had since. His particular style of play, as you say. And obviously he's moved on to be a pundit as well, and he's an oasis of a pundit because he talks Arsenal, and when he's up against, and obviously sadly he doesn't do Match Today anymore, and that show has really is lacking from him.
yeah,
Um, but he was always great going up against your Carragher's or your Nevilles and talking. It's great having a such a legend Arsenal player that can talk as a pundit. I loved the guy. It was during my younger years watching him at Highbury. It was just so special. That Ian right chant is still in my
yeah,
ears. It was something that we all knew. It was like one of the big times when you started to really sing players' names. You moved away from the songs about the club, and he was like one of the very first big. I know we had Brady and other pin-ups and stuff beforehand, and great players, but Righty brought that celebrity sort of football style to him in his celebrations. Where he would stand there and I'm sure Cantona and people like that looked at his style as well and the way he celebrated. And he was iconic, right? He was absolutely iconic during his time. And like you say, as a cheeky guy and always with the banter. And I think no one really knew that he had all that. We saw him on the pitch and the way his flair to score. It was only later when he became a pundit we realised, my God, this guy was an absolute character. He can score like that, but he can tell the jokes like Eamon does. He can give the description,
yeah.
in his flair. And yeah, absolutely amazing. The world is a much better place with Ian Wright in it, 100%. Great.
100%. David, just before we move on to the actual game, for the younger listeners, the clip I'd ask you to look at on YouTube is not Ian Wright with the Arsenal. It's actually Ian Wright in the 1990 FA Cup final against Man United for Crystal Palace. And he'd missed 3 months of the season with an ankle problem.
Yeah,
And he wasn't fit enough for the cup final. And they brought him on. And he absolutely tortured United, you
yeah,
know, and you could just see. I remember looking at the guy because Palace in those days were coming up from the lower division. They'd gone up into the top division. But Mark Bright and Ian Wright, Wright and Bright, were
Yeah, right, right.
the strike force. And we didn't know too much about him. And he was already 25 or 6 at that stage. And he came on in that cup final, and I went, my sweet Jesus, that this guy has it, and all of a sudden, within a year, he's playing for us.
Yeah, and the other thing for the younger listeners, if they want to find out if he could sing or not, then Google Ian Wright and do the right thing, and you'll see that he can't, but he thought he could. Bless him. What a that was
Yeah,
the
but
time.
so did Terry Venables,
Yeah,
he's got fight, he's got an head, he can go high and low, yeah,
That's another clip you can also see in that pre-match. They done a great sketch on that one. I tell you, you never live
he's,
that
he's
down. I
got,
tell you,
he's
you
got
got
fight,
me.
he's got fight, yeah.
Just briefly, lads, before we move on to the preview show, can I get your favourite goal, David, from Ian Wright, since we're on the topic? Oh,
oh, it's got to be the semi lob against Everton, clock it at North Bank.
yeah,
Amazing. I don't know if you remember that goal.
yeah, that
It
was
was
with the
just
fake fans, wasn't it?
yeah, and around the
Yeah,
back and over. Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
yeah, that was
It was
yeah. Old
great.
Neville South on a goal, didn't have a chance. Eamon, there's a favourite goal that sticks out in your mind from Ian Wright?
Yeah, I'll tell you, this is a weird one. We played Yeovil in the FA Cup, but when we won it in '93 in the early rounds, and everybody was saying slopey pitch, and we'd been done by Hereford and York City and all these teams in the '80s,
Wrexham.
and
Yeah.
Ian was having none of it, so he's 30 yards out, and he sees the goalkeeper on the penalty spot, and he just decided to hit a pitching wedge over his head, and that was it. Like, let's put this one to bed. Yeah, brilliant goal.
Yeah, what a man, and yeah, he's always be a legend in our eyes. Ian Wright, and that's a nice tribute to him. That's and Rocky and Righty,
Watch
that'd be
it.
a documentary.
If
It's
you
on.
haven't
It's
watched it,
on.
watch it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Watch
it's
it.
it is. It brings a lump to your throat, doesn't it? It's one
Yeah,
of those documentaries that's it's moving throughout, really. But a
yeah,
beautiful documentary too. David Rocastle. It was beautifully done. And as an Arsenal fan, just watch it. You'll
Watch
enjoy
it.
it, and obviously '89 as well, as Eamon said,
Yeah.
and also Fever Pitch. What a film!
oh yeah,
Oh, what a film!
yeah, yeah.
Um, in terms of our opponents, Crystal Palace, who've been going really great guns under Oliver Glasner since he's come in. He's really changed, transformed Crystal Palace. Last season's finish, they finished 12th in the table with 53 points. Of course, they won the FA Cup against Manchester City. Our own Eberechi got the only goal in that game, and also that meant they qualified for the Conference League, which they probably stand a good chance of winning when you see the teams that's in it. You'd fancy them. They also play Shelbourne in it as well from here, so that should be a great game. Um, they also won the Community Shield in August against Liverpool. Uh, they started a decline under Ernie Slot, you could say, but they were really played really well that day and deserved to beat them. Their current position is eight in the Premier League. Played eight, won three, drew four. I've only had one defeat, which is quite impressive. 13 goals scored, eight conceded, and 13 points. Top scorer is John Philippe Mateta with 5 goals, who's really impressed me. He scored, of course, at the Emirates in our 2-2 draw back in April. When our very own Abrasiesi scored a cracker from a corner, and Kivior and Trassard got the goals for ourselves. Our other meeting was at Selhurst Park was when, of course, we bet them 5-1. Gabriel Jesus scored twice. Havertz, Martinelli, and Rice, and Ismaili Sarr for Palace that day. Um, to yourself, David, how impressed have you been with how Oliver Glasner has changed Crystal Palace? No longer a team really, a mid-table team, you could say, but definitely pushing towards European qualification now under his reign, aren't they?
They are a blueprint for all those other clubs, mid-table clubs
Yeah,
that want to go ahead. And
yeah,
he has that blueprint, and he has completely nailed it. And they've gone forward, and they've gone and won the FA Cup. And okay, they've obviously we've taken Eze off them, but they've kept their good players. They had the whole situation with Mark Gay, whether he was going to leave or not,
yeah.
and he stuck around. Mateta is a quality striker. We need to be very wary of him. And they've got a great travelling support. They'll come with their ultras to go against our Ashburton Grove boys. And I think it will be a very, very lively game for a 2 o'clock on a Sunday. The clocks will have changed. There'll
Nice,
be
yeah.
atmosphere. We all get an extra hour in bed tonight. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, on the midweek Champions League game we had that light show, which was a lot of fun to watch, more like Taylor Swift concert. But if on Sunday they want to do that, I mean, come to my kitchen. I've got 3 switches, and you can just flick them on and off, and that's like 10 lights in my kitchen. So that'll give you. I don't think we need, again, on Sunday. We're not going to need that. We're going to need everybody. Nice Sunday. Don't have your Sunday roast till after the game. Don't be falling asleep. Get down the pub nice and early. Bacon sandwich. 3 or 4 pints, get into the ground, make a lot of noise. I think it's going to be very, very special on Sunday because this is a hard game. Don't quite. I think this is probably one of the hardest ones. I know we've had really difficult games and we've been through them and we're at home, but this is the hardest home game that we'll have had this season, without a doubt. I mean, I know we had City and whatever. This is don't think this isn't going to be a difficult game. So come out with the 3 points. So look forward to it.
Yeah, they've got keeping Marquis was really crucial to, you know, they would have struggled without him. You could, at the back, he's such a leader, and you can see that. And Liverpool were desperate to get him, but they've got players like Adam Wharton in the centre of midfield who came from Blackburn, who's incredible rise under him. Munoz, the full back, who's got a lot of pace. Tyreek Mitchell, Ismaili Sarr, Kamada, who came from Frankfurt. Um, how impressive you been with how Glasner has assembled a squad of real good talent. They're a really good side, aren't they, Eamon?
They are, Jonathan. But before I answer that question, I'd just like to say to the listeners that Palace would be my second team. I have a soft spot for Palace,
Yeah,
right?
you've always said that on the show.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
reason being, when my younger sister moved over to London in the late 80s,
yeah,
she was a nurse trainee in Orpington in Kent, which is Palace area,
yeah.
and I had occasion to go down there quite a number of times to Selhurst back in the day, and I just kind of there was a great buzz about the place, and then years ago when I go to pretty much every home game now, but years ago when you can only afford to go to 3 or 4 home games, myself and a mate of mine, the Grim Reaper, every silver lining has a cloud. We used to try and double up. Like if the Arsenal were on a Sunday and they were on a Saturday, we try and catch the two games, So a great time for Palace. In relation to the squad that Glasgow has built, you see, the thing about it is there's a lot of money in the English Premier League, right? And this notion of Arsenal and Man United back in the day having it their own way and everybody else is way off the plate, that's gone, right? So there's a lot of money switching about, and the teams that invested wisely, there was talk about Palace in the summer that it had a terrible transfer window, but they didn't. It's just that they weren't buying star names and blah 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 blah, right? So if you look at what they have, you're right about Wharton. Wharton's a beautiful player,
Yeah.
lovely left foot, and he's a great man to see space. But they've also got a very good goalkeeper, Dean
Mm,
Henderson,
yeah.
whose father actually was Dave Henderson, the play with Bowes and Pats,
You
from the.
serious?
From the Henderson family, and yeah,
I
from the
didn't know
Henderson
that.
family, and
God.
there you go now,
Wow.
yeah. Like as the Bowes fans used to sing, thank you very much for Davy Henderson. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very, very much. Yeah.
No, that's a
Yeah,
that's a fact, Eamon. I did not
yeah,
know.
there's a Dane Henderson,
Wow.
very good
Wow.
goalkeeper. Guehi at the back. Munoz is a real danger.
Yeah.
Um, they have a different way of playing, and here's the big conundrum tomorrow, right, for the Arsenal. The way Palace play is they empty out the right hand attacking space. They empty it out, right? And Munoz actually is there by Bukayo Saka, even though he's nominally playing as a fullback,
Yeah.
right? So they tend to go either through Wharton and try and play through the lines. And then all of a sudden, when you expect them to go through Wharton, there's a ball over the top out onto the right hand side where they've emptied that space. Now, if we have Calafiori or Lewis Skelly going inside the way they tend to do, that's something we need to watch out for down that side.
Yeah.
I remember watching them in the Community Shield against Liverpool in August, and they absolutely torched Liverpool by doing that. Munoz, I think and a lot of the chances that Mateta gets are from that side. Mateta, when he's on it, he's unplayable. He really is a danger. And what I would say about Palace, they're not a dirty team, but physically, they're one of the few teams that are our level. They're at our level physically. They're very, very athletic. Um, they're a good team. They'd be hard to beat. I'm looking at their away record there, Jonathan.
Yeah.
They drew away at Chelsea 0-0. They beat Villa 3-0. They beat West Ham 2-1.
Yeah.
And they lost at Everton. And I honestly God, I watched the whole game, right? And I do not know how they lost that game.
Yeah. Because
So,
they
yeah.
battered everything, didn't they?
They
Yeah.
battered everything in the first half. Absolutely murdered them.
Yeah.
Like Mateta on last weekend in the 3-3 draw with Bournemouth,
Yeah.
he scored a hat trick, right? But he missed about four.
Yeah. If he missed a single at
Yeah,
the very end
yeah,
not to win it. Remember, it came to when
yeah.
he plays it over. Yeah. And that game looked like it was kind of going from Bournemouth are having an incredible season under
Totally.
Tony Iraola.
But did you see the will that Palace had to get back into the game?
Yeah, it's a never say die spirit, isn't it?
Yeah.
But they're so athletic. Like for the whole 90 minutes, they don't look a tired outfit. It's just energy, isn't it? And as David
Energy.
said, the energy from the ultras, it's an incredible, it's the last kind of the old school grounds, isn't it, where the fans are nearly on top of you and it's own
I
to.
have to say,
Have you
I
ever
love going to
seen a game,
Sellers.
Eamon, at Shadowers Park?
I've been to Sellers as in the home end
Yeah,
on a number of occasions, but I've
Yeah,
also been with us at the away end, and I don't find it remotely intimidating. In fact, you'll probably agree, David, it's a great match day experience.
it is like it's a vintage match day experience. It's great
yeah,
fun,
Yeah,
and the Palace guys, they might look all, they might look foreboding, but everyone's really good down there.
yeah,
It's a good club. It's a good club, and they know where they are. And like I say, he's got a blueprint there, and they're having a fantastic time. Look, they're in Europe. They've got a trophy. They had their parades. They've watched players, but they've kept good players. They've kept good players in there. And they all probably know that this is going to be very different come the end of the season because those players are, he's already come out and said Gaya's off, and they might not be able to hold on to Mateta. I mean, let's just see what happens. But they're going to give it a really good go, Palace, this year.
yeah.
And yeah, they might get a European trophy out of it as well. So it is not going to be an easy afternoon. But in saying that, we should have enough. We should have enough to give them a good game on Sunday.
Yeah, yeah. But just going back, John, to my favourite memory from Palace and Arsenal, I went there in 1990. And it was April 1990. So I'm in the away end with the Arsenal standing, as you did back in the day on the terrace. And they just qualified for the FA Cup final. And they'd beaten Liverpool in the semi-final. And earlier that season, Liverpool had beaten them 9-0 in the league. So
Yeah,
to beat them in the semi-final,
yeah,
oh, it's Pardew, I think. Yeah,
yeah.
Alan Pardew got the winner,
Alan
yeah.
Pardew, that's right,
So
4-3, wasn't it?
they
Yeah.
were in they were in festival humour, and there was balloons going up and whatnot because they qualified for the FA Cup final for the first time in their history. And we were kind of we 1990 wasn't terribly good for us. We'd won the league in '89, bit of a hangover from that. We won it again in '91. So we were all kind of in Easter kind of don't give a shit humour, right? But my favourite memory was every time Michael Thomas got the ball. The whole Arsenal end went, it's up for grabs now! Even if he was on his own, at the edge of his own box.
yeah, yeah.
There's
Continually,
definitely
yeah,
commentary material in Eamon, that's for sure.
yeah. No,
How would you like to see David, and I'll come to Eamon now in a second, our former gooner Eddie Nketiah, he got the winner against Liverpool in that superb 2-1. They completely deserved to win that game 2-1, if not by maybe even 3 or 4. But do you see Eddie Nketiah flourishing under Oliver Glasner and becoming that striker that he wanted to be at Arsenal?
well, he's got to start, hasn't he? He's got to play more without a doubt and get the
Yeah,
opportunities. I hope he has an absolute stinker on Sunday if he comes on. But he'll get a great welcome. He'll get a
yeah,
great welcome from the
yeah.
Arsenal. Um, I think he has the capabilities. I think he has it in his locker to do it without a doubt. But again, he's got a great on form striker in front of him, and these when people come on form, it's very hard unless an injury or some tactical thing. Then for him to get into those boots, it's going to be difficult. It's interesting. We've got a few games coming up now where we're playing, and we've obviously just had Fulham with a smattering of Arsenal. We've got Sunderland coming up. That's Xhaka.
Yeah,
We've got
yeah,
Eddie.
yeah.
We've got Eddie on Sunday. We've got Arsenal players throughout the Premier League. I think is there something like 13 ex-Arsenal players are
Yeah.
playing in squads in the Premier League. It's the most ever. So it's really interesting. We've got a lot of agent Arsenal all over the place. So with a bit of luck, he'll bang it into his own net on Sunday, and we'll all give him a
He scored against us, of course, Eamon, in the
yeah.
Carabao Cup. That was a crazy game, 3-2. Jesus got 2 goals that night as well. That was a cracking cup tie, I have to say. Are you confident Eddie Nketiah can find, is he that 15, 20 goal a season striker that he wants to be?
Well, he would be if he was playing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
the thing is, like, Mateta is just, they've unearthed a nugget in Mateta.
yeah.
He wouldn't suit the Arsenal the way we play, but he certainly suits the way they play. The problem with Eddie is Eddie is not a dominant physical force. He's a touch player and a poacher and a finisher,
A
right?
box in the box
And
type.
exactly.
Yeah.
exactly. So, but and maybe the type of football Palace play, I think Eddie he'd have been better at Brighton,
Yeah, I
you
think
know?
so. Yeah, that style of football.
Yeah, and there was
Yeah,
talk of him going there, but
yeah.
no, but Eddie's good. If you look at his conversion rate compared to starts at the Arsenal, it was quite good. It
It
was
was.
one and
Yeah.
three,
Where do you think he failed at Arsenal, Eamon?
he didn't fail.
Yeah. Do you
He
think
made
he just didn't?
126 appearances.
He
He
just
made
didn't suit our
126
test.
appearances.
Yeah, that's very poor because we made
Yeah.
more. We made more appearances at the Emirates.
Like that's not failure. Like, I don't know whether you know this, but Arsenal have a thing that every player gets recognised. If you're in the premium area,
Yeah,
every player that makes over 100 appearances.
gets recognised.
Eddie made 120 something
I
appearances.
to be honest with you, I didn't realise he made that many appearances.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's. Where do you think it went wrong for him, Davis, at the Arsenal?
He just wasn't prolific. He didn't. He was given chances. He would score. Don't get me wrong. We all remember games that he dug us out, but I think a little bit injury. He went off the boil. Other players came in. You know, and it was just his time. His time had come. It happens to a lot of players.
Yeah,
They don't take their chances. They become a bit stale, and then the board looks at it, and the fans are looking at it and think, we need a better striker. We need to, and it's what happens. What happens, and we've seen it. We were talking about Smith Rowe the other week, weren't we? We've looked at other players, and yeah, would you compare that? Would Eddie get in the team now? Would he be in the squad? Would he
No.
start? Of course he wouldn't. Of course he wouldn't. We've moved on as a club, and that's the point. He was with us at that level when we were at that level, but he didn't. He couldn't even sustain that level well, and then we moved. We just literally moved on, and that's it. So I love him as a character. I think he's brilliant. He's got that Ian Wright feel about
yeah, he
him.
does. Yeah,
He's
he
a
does. Yeah,
cheeky guy. He can, he's
yeah,
got great banter,
yeah,
but sadly, like I said, I agree with you. I mean, he should move on if he's got it in him to play at a level within the Premier League. He's a
yeah.
Premier League striker,
Right. Yeah,
no question about it. He doesn't need to drop down. He can
yeah,
stay where he is, but he needs to
yeah.
go join a club where he's going to be the number one guy, so he can show us whether he can do it or not. You
Yeah.
know,
And I
um,
suppose he'll always be remembered for that late winner against Manchester United, that 3-2 game at the Emirates. So he'll always be remembered for that goal.
yeah,
Um, what type of reception do you feel Eberechi will get from the Palace fans, David?
it's a
And
great question.
yeah,
Eamon, do you want to go that one?
Reception for Eddie and Nketiah.
no, for
No,
Eberechi,
Eze.
what type of reception will he get from the
Eze,
Palace
no,
fans?
look, the Palace, they're a sanguine bunch. I was actually he made 116 Premier League appearances for the Arsenal, Eddie.
That's
That's what
incredible.
I was looking on my phone just to see, in case I was misleading listeners. But he made 116. He scored 19 Premier League goals plus a bag full in other competitions, right? I think, look, the Palace crowd are a sanguine bunch. They don't do massive stick. They just don't.
Yeah.
Like, they gave Righty a bit of board back in the day, but it wasn't really not. It wouldn't be Nasri like. You
I
know?
don't think anything could be nasty like, or even out of a yard like.
Yeah, it's not Isak going back to Newcastle. Like, no.
No, it's not. No.
I mean, no, and I think you get the same type of reception that because he's a small bit younger, but the same stage of his career when a certain Mikel Arteta left Everton at 29 years of age to go play in the Champions League with the Arsenal. And I
Yeah.
was at that first game that Arteta played for the Arsenal. And back in those days, we're on the clock end now, just behind the Ashburton Army. But back in those days, we were upstairs on the arc over the away fans, right? And Mickey's come off to take a corner. And I said to me, mate, Richie White, actually, the Everton fan.
Today's brand.
Richie, great lad. Right, he's been on this program. And I said, I reckon Arteta will get a bit of bored here now, right? And as he was taking the corner, the Everton fans broke out into Mickey, Mickey, Mickey. He's the best ever Spaniard, you'll see. And I think as I will
He's
get a
got
bit of
time.
that from
Yeah.
Palace,
Yeah,
because I think Palace fans will realise
Yeah.
he had
What
a
he
chance
gave
to just
Palace
do
as
something
well.
at a different level. and they'd have no complaints about what he gave to the club over the years.
And I think his best parting shot at Crystal Palace was getting the winning goal against
They've a
Manchester
bit of
City.
class, the Palace fans,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I hope he gets a good reception, and no doubt I'm sure he will.
George Graham played for both clubs as well.
Did he?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
Because we're
Yeah.
getting all these facts tonight, Dave.
I'm
You wouldn't
telling
get this
you.
anywhere else.
And I
Briefly,
didn't get
lads.
that on my phone, Jonathan.
He got that from the side of a beer Moretti can.
Oh, well, if I was Dave, I'd say George rang me and told me.
He always steals the show.
Here's a signed picture of him getting out with the bath in Crystal Palace,
I have to say, another memorable preview show by a very own MC for the night, Eamonn Donnelly. Thanks very much for coming on, pal. And also to David Sims. He wouldn't see this anywhere else on X.
Hey, it's Saturday. Do you know what I mean? Like,
if you can't start
Keep
your
the beers
Saturday
going.
night any better than this, catch our show on Spotify and also on the Dublin Arsenal YouTube channel, and catch all the action in the River Bar tomorrow for all the pre and post match atmosphere. It's
2-0.
have a bath after that.
2-0 to the
2-0
Arsenal.
Sunday. 2-0 Sunday.
Have a great Saturday night, lads, and long weekend, and we'll see you again on Monday.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, and come on, you Gooners.
Come on.